Hey everybody, Dr. Zuleta here, and welcome to this module. This module in week 6, we're going to be talking about genes, and we're going to be talking about super interesting science that can help you make better decisions to be able to overcome this disease. And so I want to share with you guys a little bit of the background of the conversation of genes versus environment. That way you can have better data to make your decisions as the months come along and you're reversing this disease. And so I'm going to share with you my screen here. And the first thing I want to mention is that, is it all genes, right? And so that was the question years ago, whether type 2 diabetes or obesity or diabetes was just related to the genes. And that is one of the biggest questions that we've had so far. Well, there was a guy, Dr. Stonkard, who tried to actually answer this question. And he tried to answer this question by taking about 205 kids that have been adopted and see if they got adopted to a family that was different from their biological family. And I'll explain myself. If the biological family was overweight, then he would see if the adoptee parents were overweight or thin, and he wanted to determine whether that had any influence at all. And so, what he determined from that in 1980s was that these families, if the family that the kid came from was obese or overweight, the kid would be obese or overweight. And so at the conclusion of his study, he said that the family environment alone has no apparent effect. So this was pretty interesting at that time. And so he determined that about 70% of the inheritance of type 2 diabetes or obesity was because of our genes. But we know that this is not the case. Now, good things and bad things came out of it. Good things is that Dr. Stonkard was a real, he was a real pioneer in developing the anti-racism, in a way against obesity. And so he really wanted to spread the word, to share that people were not obese just because they chose to, that there were certain factors that made them obese, and that, we should not judge them and look down upon them, almost as a prejudice, as a form of prejudice. And so I think that was good. The bad thing that came out of this study was a pessimism because this was almost the first study in obesity that was done, and that trickled into the whole science community, and there was a pessimistic view of being able to help people with diabetes or obesity or type 2 diabetes. And so now we know that this is completely different. I want to share with you guys the data from studies of the genome. And as you know, our genes are like a cookbook, and everything that makes up our bodies is like meals out of that cookbook, right? And so, what these studies show right here is that only about 30% of diabetes, if you can see diabetes, is right up here. This is type 2 diabetes right here, right? And so that means that it's about 10 to 30% that the genes can explain it, right? If you have, for instance, here eye color is 100% genetic, right? And type 2 diabetes is up here. And so where is the rest, right? If Dr. Stonkard was saying that it was 70%, that it was down here, but we know that he's not right. And if genes can only explain 30%, where is the rest of here? And this is what I want to explain to you today, because this is the biggest piece, that so that you know that you have a control over a lot of this. You have about 70% influence in this, but it's a bit tricky. It's not very intuitive, and it's a bit tricky. So we have to kind of go through that, how that works. And so I'm going to share with you exactly how all of that works in a simple way. Okay, here. Boom, boom, boom. And so the next thing I want to share with you guys is the fact that this is where it is, right? We can actually inherit the memories of our parents. So how crazy is this? This is Dr. Diaz, who's done amazing research in the epigenetic memory field. What that means is that the memories of our parents are transferred down to us through not the genes themselves, but how the genes are packed into pockets and how they are packed for transfer and how they are turned off or on, right? And so this shows right here that if they take certain mice and they expose them to different odors, their kids and down to the second generation are actually the neurons and their brain has actually changed, and as soon as you expose them to that odor they immediately react and they have a startle response. And so that is so interesting because we know now that these memories, these experiences, these traumatic experiences can transfer down through epigenetics. And the other amazing thing is the next study that was done by him, that okay, so can we actually reverse that? And he showed that we can reverse that. We can reverse the behavioral and the neuroanatomy of this. And so the same, he took the mice, he put the odor, and then he shocked them, right? That was the trauma. And then he retrained them, um, the second and third generations, to know that the odor did not mean the shock always. And so what that means is that you could reverse the trauma that was done, and then after you reverse that trauma, it was not passed down to generations anymore. How cool is that? And so the fact that we actually have power to reverse this disease and to reverse the memories that increase our chances of having obesity or diabetes. And so then the most important thing is that we have genome, transcriptome, proteome, and metabolome. And so those are where all of this can happen. The genome is our DNA, and then after that, these genes get turned on or off depending on the activities that we take upon. And so that's really important because all of these proteins are the ones that make us or break us. And then the last study that I want to share with you is this study here that showed that it takes about 3 months for the diet to actually change your microbiome. It changes everything around your body, but to actually change the microbiome, it takes about 3 months. And so you need really a long term. And so my goal here, is for you to realize that the changes that you're doing have to be long term. And so make sure that you fill out the task for this week, and to do it in a long term basis. And so that's the goal for this week, to be able to commit to doing this for long term basis, to be able to track it in the Practice Better app for long term basis, to track at least one of your meals or one of the items that you're eating so that you know exactly what's in that item. Okay, and so that's your mission for today, and to do that for 3 months. If you miss a couple of days, it's okay. You just fall right back into it, because that's really one of the major keys. All right, that's it for this week. Until next time, doctors here. Take it easy. Bye bye.